years ago, I was enamored with this because I came from a governorship. John and I were freshman governors together, 2004. We got elected, respectively, in our state of Utah and West Virginia. We became friends, Democrat, Republican, looking to solve problems. I thought the same would carry over when I got to Washington. Candy, first of all, you have to understand the dynamics of what we're dealing with. As a senator, we have, since I've been there in 2 years, there's not been a bipartisan caucus where we sit down to talk with our Republican colleagues on the other side, unless we do that behind what you see on the day-to-day basis. Think about taking it further. We don't even know our colleagues in Congress, the 435. So this gives us a chance, no labels, gives us that venue to sit down and have meaningful conversation.
But, you know, to have to do this, I mean, it just seems like you could tell 100 grown men and women, you guys need to talk to each other.
Yeah, right. But did you hear what Joe just said? I mean, can you believe that there's not even a venue that allows people to come together to solve problems? So the premise is a very simple one. Joe and I come from a background of problem solving as governor. And when you see that the dysfunction of Congress is now becoming our nation's dysfunction, we're becoming disfigured in a sense, our economy is, because Congress is so far behind in the game. So the premise is a very simple one, and that is we want to create a new attitude around problem solving. Now, how do you do that?
Right.
You got to get a critical mass together of problem solvers, which is what we're doing. We've got 25 signed on, and our goal by the end of the year is to have 75. So if you can imagine 75 Republicans, Democrats, Senate and House members who agree to meet, check their ego at the door, and sit around a table where they're putting their country first as opposed to party. As opposed to the next election, they're thinking about the future when they deliberate about these very important issues. That's the objective. And so far as I can tell, Candy, and you know, I'm a recent convert to this, they came to me most recently, there's nobody else in the world of movements now that is focused on bringing people together around the premise of problem solving.
Well, certainly there have been out there, Third Way, and a lot of groups out there that have sort of tried this. It's just, in reality, you get, you know, bipartisanship on Capitol Hill tends to be, well, if you agree with me, then you're being bipartisan. So let me try to get you to apply bipartisanship to the current issues.
Okay.
Let's take gun control. I think we can pretty much see what the lines of delineation are here. You heard the NRA, you hear those, and you know, some moderates and those on the left going, no, wait a second. It can't be about guns. It's about society. It's about mental health. So you have these two sides that, to me, sound a lot like, you know, 10 years ago when they were arguing.
Candy, you have two former governors that were raised in culture of guns.
West Virginia, Utah.
I've been an NRA member. I'm a life member, an A-rated. I've always been supported, and I appreciate all the support I've received. I appreciate all my friends that I have in the sporting arenas and hunting I hunt with and all of that. I was taught at a very young age to use it safely, to respect the firearms, and make sure that I passed it down to my children and grandchildren. With all that being said, never in my life could I imagine that I would see a time where mass violence has escalated to the point where 20 children, let's say 20 babies, in their kindergarten were slaughtered.
And
that has changed.
Everyone felt,
we all
sides of this one, holy cow.
Yeah, for mass violence, but this has changed. We owe it to sit down and talk, but it has to be comprehensive. It can't be just, it's about guns and guns only. It can't be just about the mental illness or the lack of mental illness care that we have. And it can't be just about the video violence in the media. I want every NRA member, I want every law-abiding gun owner to know their Second Amendment rights will not be infringed upon. The same as the First Amendment will not be infringed upon. But as adults, we have a responsibility to sit down and have an adult dialogue and try to have a comprehensive package that works.
You know, we've had an adult dialogue about the budget deficit, and we've got Sense and Bowls, which everyone promptly ignored. And now it's kind of going back into the conversation now. But the question is, and I know you've written an op-ed, you know, what's reasonable? What is reasonable in terms of gun control when it comes to states that understand the gun culture and how deeply it is embedded in the culture of some of these states?
Well, it's going to have to be a little bit from all of the above, and that's why, you know, your show...
Could be an assault weapons
Well,
ban.
listen, we've heard from the special interest groups. We're hearing from, you know, one end of the spectrum or that end of the spectrum. But in the end, our duly elected officials get together with an open mind, and they then make decisions on behalf of the people they represent. And that's where getting back to no labels is so important. You know, we've got the politics of right and left and center, but we've forgotten the most important part of all, and that's the politics of problem solving, representing the people in all that we do. What we're doing today isn't normal, and for the younger generation growing up, seeing the way that politics is playing out, this is not the norm. And that's why Joe and I, coming from the backgrounds we do, you get people of right and left together in a room, whether it's on guns or anything else, and you say, what's the pathway forward? How do we solve this for the American people?
What is, I mean, you call for reasonable. What's reasonable to you? Is an assault weapons ban, such as the one we're about to get from Dianne Feinstein and Senator Blumenthal of Connecticut, is that reasonable?
First of all, how do you keep the guns, such as assault guns, out of the hands of mentally deranged people that should have help?
Be commonality.
And that's where it seems to be. Whether, if you look back at the Virginia Tech, the gentleman had been, I think, detained twice, only for 48 hours because of the laws we make. How do we...
It didn't apply in Arizona because he apparently hadn't saw anything. Colorado,
right.
He apparently...
So basically, that's a huge part. The other part of it is what type of weapons, how registration, how they're getting in hands. So all of that is reasonable to talk about. There's a premise now in Washington that guilt by conversation. It used to be guilt by association. We've moved on to guilt by conversation. We can't even sit down and have conversations about, can you talk about any of these issues, whether it's the clips and whether it's registration and whether it's bans on certain military. You can't even talk about it. And if you don't have the people who are understanding that, the people that basically have expertise in that at the table, and if you keep pushing the NRA away, they've got to sit down. They've got to have a responsible place at the table. And I'm pushing that. I want them to be there. But I want the people that understand mental illness. I want the people that understand the video games.
So you the holistic approach.
It has to be comprehensive.
Here's why what Joe was saying is so important, and why the no labels dimension, I think, is so relevant here. Regardless of whether it's guns or whether tax reform or immigration or energy policy, it's all the same. You're going to have to come to the table with a comprehensive package. In the case of guns, you know the 3 or 4 components that will have to be included in the end. It's kind of a no-brainer for most, but we have a hard time getting there. That's why bringing together this coalition of problem solvers in Congress that no labels has been able to work. It's a start. But by the end of the year, if we get 75 to 80 such people, you can imagine the progress on all of these important issues we'll be able to make.
So, Senator, I'm going to give you the last word here because you now are in a position that you do vote in the Senate, and your words post Newtown were taken originally as, oh, Senator Manchin is now for a ban on assault weapons. That's probably what you were talking about, the guilt by conversation. So the question here is, am I correct in interpreting what you're saying is that, sure, you would talk about an assault weapons ban, but it has to be in a more holistic package than just, here's an assault weapons ban.
Let me just tell you about no labels and problem solvers, and to be a member of that doesn't cost a thing. It's nolabels.org. Just sign on.
Right.
But with that, it brings people together. So I can talk about, I want to know, I don't own an assault weapon. I own guns. I don't have the multi-clips. I need to talk to people that believe it's important for them to keep multi-clips. I need to talk to the people that basically think they need those assault weapons. I need to talk to people that go to gun shows, don't believe they need to register. I want to hear from them. Why is it so important you're protecting that position? On the other hand, they're saying, how come you're not looking at the mental illness that we have in people that are causing these mass violence? How come you're not looking at the video games that my 8-year-old can log into and see and really glorify violence? And it really is an all-inclusive approach. It's building a consensus, and you have to take it that way.
If I can just get a yes or no, possibly, an assault weapons standalone ban.
Assault weapons standalone ban on just guns alone will not, in the political reality that we have today, will not go anywhere. It has to be comprehensive, Candy, and that's what I've tried to tell the Vice President, and I've told everybody, it has to be a comprehensive approach.
Senator Joe Manchin and former Governor John Huntsman, thank you both.
Thanks, Candy.
Good luck. We'll have you back and see how many you're collecting as you go along. Thanks so much.
Thank you much.